Vigilante Williamson here with a very simple question, and that is, how are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to do this season? TLDR. Man, I want to say 12, right? I really want to say 12 because I think this team is good. I think they have one of the most formidable offenses in the league. And even looking at this defense, which isn't perfect, only the 16th ranked defense, it's a really good rushing defense and really even not that bad of a passing defense per attempt. So I'll break that down a little bit, but I'll go with 11 to be safe. I really think this team is better than what they play. If you look at last year, they could have easily had 12 wins last year. They got swept by the Falcons, who didn't make the playoffs. That's another thing. This team has enjoyed a very soft NFC South for the past few years, and I don't think the NFC South will be as soft, but I still think this team is just too good. Now, they do have some issues. Let's get back to that defense. 16th ranked 16th ranked scoring defense, 18th ranked yardage defense overall. So, below average, below middle of the pack. The story, it's not really telling you the whole story, though. So, they are the third best rushing attempt. Well, that doesn't really count. Well, no, it does. Teams rush against them the third least attempts than everyone in the league, and they're the fourth best running defense and running offense, actually, as far as yardage. And yards per attempt, they're top 10. So that means per attempt, when you run the ball against them, they'll be the 10th as far as giving up yardage. And even with passing, they're 15 at giving up yardage. So what we're really seeing is a team that people throw on because they can't run on type shit. And even when you look at what they give up per attempt passing, it's not terrible. This is not a terrible defense. The yardage and the scoring look a lot worse than what this defense actually is. Because it's funny, in my head, I don't look at them as a bad defense. Getting that yardage and scoring, it means, your numbers are what they are. Shows an average defense. It's above average run defense, and you can argue on average passing defense per attempt. Now, obviously, they gave up a lot of yards. They gave up 19 touchdowns, so just slightly below average. Again, not great, but this isn't just like some Swiss cheese defense. This isn't some easy defense. So I'm going with 11 again, my TLDR. And starting with the defense, because that's what they need. If this defense can be shored up this year, they can win it all. Now, again, I think the NFC South will be much improved. The AFC South has been similar, where I don't know what it is about both of these South divisions. They both, historically, at least over the past 10 years, have not been that great. Every now and again, you have an anomaly. And saying that, the Tampa Bay Bucs have done a great job at not needing to rebuild post the Tom Brady era. They had Brady for those 2 years, got one Super Bowl, and have still been rolling. You got Mike Evans, who gets 1,000 yards every year, no matter what. Almost missed it last year with 1,004, but he still got it. Chris Godwin did get hurt, and that was a kind of a jank decision. If you really want to wonder about Todd Bowles and his decision making, that game in Baltimore where I believe Godwin and Evans had got hurt for a little bit. The game is pretty much over, and you still have your best receivers out there. Yeah, I get, playing until the whistle is blown, but you get players hurt for nothing. Part of that is probably why, and I might mess up his name, Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State, Skippity Ohio Reds again. That's why you drafted him, and he's going to be an impact player on this already vaunted defense. The year before that, you drafted Bucky Irvin, and he was one of the best running backs in the year. Really deserved some love for Rookie of the Year. And, 1,100 plus yards rushing, another 400 yards nearly receiving. Really good player. And then, again, you have one of the best running offenses in the league. You have one of the best passing offenses in the league. Second in touchdowns. Third in yards. You know what I mean? One of the best passing offense, one of the best offenses overall. Scoring and yardage in the league. Then you got Baker Mayfield, due for up there. I think top 5 in touchdowns, top 5 in yards. But he throws a lot of picks. there's something to shore up on this offense. You got to get Baker. I know he's a gunslinger. I know that's part of the character. I know that's part of what you want. And, hey, if you are going to throw 16 picks, if you got 40 touches for it, it looks a lot better. It's still damn near 3-to-1 ratio on picks to touchdowns, almost exactly. But still those turnovers are killer. If you could throw less of those turnovers, maybe you don't lose some of these games that maybe you shouldn't have lost. Now, they obviously beat us. They kind of split with the Commanders. They were able to beat them the first game of the season, the regular season, but lost in the playoffs. Lost to the Broncos, that's no shame. Lost to the Falcons twice. There is some shame in that. Lost to the 49ers, who, remember, didn't make the playoffs last year. Lost to the Cowboys that didn't make the playoffs last year. It's almost like, man, if you would have taken care of business against the teams that, you could have really had a good record last year. You could have really had the whole NFC go through Tampa Bay. If you look at last year, they were able to beat teams like, again, the Commanders, teams like the Lions, like the Eagles, like the Chargers. So they were able to beat these teams, but then they lose to the Falcons, lose to the Cowboys, lose to the 49ers, who weren't having a good year. That's the sky's the limit with this team, but, they have that in them. They have that, we don't really need to get up for this team, and then you probably should have. You know what I'm saying? So, hard team to predict. Very talented team on paper. A type of team that can very well feel like, hey, we are going to win the championship this year. This league is going through us. But they got to prove it. They're capable of beating any team in the league on any given Sunday. But they got to prove it week in, week out, especially when they get those gimmies. I think that was their biggest issue, is the gimme games. So if they can make sure they get all those gimme games, they beat some tough. They had a real tough schedule when you really look at it. But the losses weren't against the tough teams, outside of a couple. I mean, they did lose to Baltimore, right? They lost to the Broncos, who were a pretty good team. But to be able to beat the Lions, beat the Eagles, beat the Commanders, beat the Chargers, you know what I mean? That means you're okay. Now, are you going to sweep through the division? I think the Panthers will be a little bit better. I think they'll get more Bojangles and Krispy Kreme, because that's what they give a lot of those local Charlotte area places. Maybe even sometimes Chick-fil-A might give out something a little, when they start winning. And so they'll get a lot more free food in the Charlotte area. So I don't think they'll be as much of a pushover as they were last year. Same thing about the Falcons, who already swept them last year. I think the Falcons are going to be a lot more improved. The Saints will still be the Aints. They got a lot going on that they need to get to where they need to get. But the Falcons and even the Panthers, to some extent, are going to be a little bit tougher. So those won't be as gimme games. As you see, they're really not gimme games, even if they should be. So at least not with the Falcons. So, man, this team has the talent to do everything. Let's actually get into the schedule, see what they actually got to go through this year. Start off against those Falcons. They got to conquer the fucking Falcons, man. This idea that they're going to just keep losing to this team that they're better than, they got to get over that. They have to beat the Falcons, man. And that is no gimme. Then they go into, I love the Texans. I'm in Houston, but I love this defense. Just got my Houston Texans hoodie. I got them next. Then the Jets. You should win that, but you got an issue winning these gimme games with the Bucs. Then the Eagles, which you would think they would lose, but who knows? They might have that sauce for the Eagles. Then the Seahawks, who I think are going to be down. 49ers, who beat them last year, and everyone thinks is going to improve. You have us again, who they beat. Us being the Lions this time, because I'm a two-way homer. So, yeah, they got to go against the Lions again. They beat us last year. The Saints, they should be able to beat the Aints. Got the bye right smack dab in the middle of the season. Perfect bye. And then you have a team that a lot of people think have improved, and I think will improve. And, of course, you're linked because of Tom Brady and the Patriots. That's going to be an either-way game. And then you got the Bills. That's going to be a tough game. The Chargers, that's going to be a tough game. Then you got who knows what the Cardinals are going to be. It's not. You would think they're not a pushover. That's getting later in the season. They may be out of it. They may still be in it. They may still have a chance. So that Cardinals game is no easy work. You would think you would have to be at the Saints, and that's after the Cardinals game. But again, you got to get these gimmies, and then another game with the Falcons. You got something there. And then you got to do the last 2 games with the Panthers, 2 of the last 3 weeks, and then the Dolphins. If you win your gimme games, you should win 12 or 13 games. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're not gonna sweep through everybody, but even if you you lose to maybe the Lions, I want to win this one, or maybe the Texans or the Bills. As long as you beat one of those teams, between the Texans, Bills, and Eagles early in the season, as long as you can split with those teams and go 2-2 out of those teams, you should have a pretty good schedule. You should have a pretty good record in the NFC. Yeah, you still got the Rams. Hopefully I didn't say the Chargers. You got the Rams. There was the Chargers last year, the Rams this year, late in the year. But this is a pretty soft schedule. You know what I mean? Not the hardest schedule. We've seen much tougher schedules than this. I said 11. I'm still going with 11, though. I kind of feel like this team has everything a championship team needs, but something. And I don't know what that something is. I don't know if it's a player. Maybe Emeka Egbuka is going to help the receiving core, which is starting to get a little long in the tooth, as great as they are, both Godwin and Evans. And that's another thing. Godwin's not all the way back. Maybe he'll be back by the beginning of the season, but will he be all the way back even if he's playing? I don't know. So you look at this team, man. If you're a Bucs fan and you're saying, hey, we're going to go 13-4 and win the division and win the conference and win the Super Bowl, I can't, look at you crazy. Shout out to my brother-in-law. He's a big Bucs fan. You will be right to be happy about this team. You will be right to be positive about this team and think that Baker's going to get there. He's got those less picks. The defense has to shore up just a little bit, man. I feel like this defense can very well get good enough to be a good defense. I don't think this is some terrible defense despite some of the numbers. I think they can very well do good enough to win a Super Bowl. That's what this team should be thinking. But I can't help the feeling that they're only going to win 11 games, win a playoff game, and be done. We'll see. I have a high – they have a high ceiling. They can win 13, 14 games. Very easy. They're not going to fall off. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs. They should still win this division. I can see, again, the Falcons competing. I can't really see the Panthers competing for the division. But I can see the Panthers getting 8 wins, 7 or 8 wins, and being a tough team to deal with and a pesky team to deal with late in the season. I can see them wanting to play spoiler in those last couple games they have and wanting to be divisional spoiler and maybe causing you some havoc when you should be going to the playoffs strong. That I can see the Panthers doing, but I can't see them actually getting enough wins to really compete. But they got to get over a lot of things. They got to get over these gimme wins. They got to get over the Falcons. They got to get over these picks. They got to improve as a passing defense. There's a lot they have to do on their end, but this schedule is opened up for them to make the damn Super Bowl almost. I'm sticking with 11 wins, though. I would love for them to prove me wrong. I think there's just something, something you can't put your finger on, something you can't explain. I mentioned teams like the Bills and the Ravens having like a mental block. The Bucs, there's something there because this team is good enough to win it all. They were good enough last year. Shit, this is a very good team, but we will see what happens. What do you think about the Bucs? Am I overrating them, underrating them? I really think this team is good enough to win it all, but I don't think they will. And I think they're just going to win 11 games. I think they'll lose to some teams they should beat, and they'll beat some teams they probably you would think they would lose to, and they're going to end up with 11 games, win a playoff game, and that's about it. All right, what do you think? Peace.